Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when and where you're listening. Thank you for joining me on another market update. I am Nick Gumpert with Remax Top Producers. I serve the 210 corridor predominantly, not only in the San Gabriel Valley here in Southern California. So wanted to, again, give that market update for the month of August 2022. Just a reminder, when we're giving a market update, it's always looking in hindsight, looking back at July's numbers and some of August numbers to date. So let's go ahead and get started where we always start, with the national spotlight. The U.S. housing market continues to move toward more evenly balanced supply and demand compared to the 2021 frenzy. Our July data shows elevated mortgage rates left many buyers tightening their budgets and sellers responding with price reductions, while home shoppers who kept searching saw more available options. So that's from Danielle Hale, chief economist there at Realtor.com. So again, we are normalizing, we're moderating, we're slowing down, but that's not a bad thing. That's a healthy thing, especially when we think about long term. So weekly mortgage rates continue to fluctuate. They're starting, again, I'll use the keyword moderate, meaning they're not going significantly up and down as much. You can see where we were in early January and where we are as of the first week of August. Again, things are starting to stabilize a little bit, even though that means they're not staying exactly the same. So something to be mindful of. Where have we been since 2022 started, and where are we currently? Again, this graph gives you a week-to-week snapshot of that fluctuation in mortgage rates. The low rates of the last few years were an anomaly. A combination of freakishly low interest rates and Federal Reserve intervention in the bond and mortgage-backed security market. Now the Fed has ended quantitative easing and is raising rates. So is now a good time to buy? Should I wait for rates to lower? Again, you're hearing it from the Washington Post on this quote, but in their opinion, it was an anomaly, right? So something to be mindful of if you're waiting to hold out for interest rates to go back down below 3%. Not happening anytime soon. That much I am very confident in saying is not going to happen. So just be mindful of what you're waiting for if you're waiting to buy. Recession, there's that big R word that so many people want to stay away from, don't want to talk about it. I'll talk about it because, again, it's just the truth, right? But let's dig in. What is a recession exactly? Because I think we hear of this term in the news a lot. So a recession is a significant decline in economic activity spread across the economy, lasting more than a few months. Normally visible in real GDP, real income, employment, industrial production, and wholesale retail sales. So again, it's an economic scenario, and not every recession is a housing recession. I've shared a graph with you, I know, in prior market updates. Feel free to check back at that because, again, 4 out of the last 6 recessions since 1980, homes have continued to appreciate, not depreciate. So just be mindful the economy is not always tied into the housing market and fluctuate housing prices. So is there a recession around the corner? If you would have asked those in the industry a year ago, 12% said, yeah, the recession's around the corner. You ask people now, it's almost 50-50, right? So again, it is what it is. You have to deal with the situation in the economy for what it allows us to do and not allow us to do. Nonetheless, let's paint the picture for where we really are. But again, this is just to share some opinions based on what our economists are saying, who believe, is it around the corner? But more importantly, how would housing be impacted by a recession? That's what I can control, is my expert opinion and sharing it with you and those you know. Right? So a recession means falling mortgage rates. That's what a recession means for the housing industry. Here's what that looks like for the last 6 recessions, from peak to the trough of that recession. Right? In 1980, they fell over 4%, 81, 5%. Look at 2020 when we had COVID, right? We had a recession economically, but housing boomed, didn't it? They fluctuated 1%. That's when we saw them drop very low, right underneath 3%. So over the past 5 recessions, mortgage rates have fallen on average 1.8 percentage points from the peak seen during the recession to the trough, right? So almost 2%. And in many cases, they continue to fall after the fact, as it takes some time to turn things around, even when the recession is technically over. Here's where I'll remind everyone of the 1 to 10% rule. For every 1% interest rates go up, it's going to affect your borrowing power negatively by 10%. When interest rates go down by 1%, it is going to positively impact your ability to borrow by an additional 10%. So it works both ways. Something to be mindful of as we find ourselves in a recession. What does that mean for your borrowing power if you're looking to make a purchase, and a significant purchase at that, in today's day and age? So why the housing market won't crash? Again, a topic I've touched on. Nonetheless, it's a topic that seems to resurface here on a regular basis. Is now the time? Is the bubble going to burst now? Here's why it's not. Not enough homes for sale, first and foremost. You can see this graph here. It dates us back to 1999. You can see the peaks in the mid-2000s when we dealt with that horrifying housing and economic recession, right? So that's where we are, though, right? We're significantly lower when it comes to the amount of homes for sale. But let's dig in. How do we even get homes for sale? Well, here's one way: new builds. You can see for 14 consecutive years, we've underproduced. Why? Because we overproduced and we found ourselves in that massive recession. So developers, a lot of people dropped out of that business. A lot of people pulled back in that business and said, we're not going to make that same mistake. This year, we're projected to build in around 1.3 million new builds in 2022. That's more builds. That's more new builds than we had in 2005, 2006, 2007, leading into that housing crash. Though in May and June, developers pulled back with the fluctuating interest rates. They want to see how this market shift is going to handle those prospective buyers, because what they don't want to do is overproduce again. So something to be mindful of. We are projected to build more this year than we did even in the mid-2000s in a single year. But for permits pulled and new projects completed, all developers nationwide started pulling back to say, let's see how this interest rate is going to affect prospective buyers so we're not overextending ourselves. But again, this is a 14-year situation that's got us into the low supply that we have today. It's a contributing factor. New builds. Here's the graph, right? So building permits, you can see in May and June, they pulled them back as interest rates started to fluctuate more and more. You see housing starts, right? New project starts, they pulled back again in May and June. So share this with someone that can use it. Share it with that pessimistic individual that says, we're going to have a housing crash because we're going to have an oversupply. According to what facts? Besides maybe just your opinion and a headline you might have heard, right? So things to be mindful of, graphs to share. And again, this is pertaining to new construction specifically. Lending standards, they're under control. You might say, well, what does that have to do with our inventory? It has to do with our inventory because we also get inventory from foreclosures. But you can see here, lending practices have increased, and that's a good thing, right? They've made it more challenging because they have higher standards now versus being able to go on somebody's word to say, hey, I'm good for that mortgage. I can handle that. I promise. That's not the case now. You have to prove that promise. So lending practices, it has a direct reflection upon foreclosure rate seen here. We are at historical lows. We were at historical lows in 2021, right? A lot of that had to do with lending practices having increased significantly over that time. Yes, we had some people get forbearance, go into forbearance, meaning they got some assistance from their lenders. Nonetheless, you didn't have that same assistance in the mid-2000s. Lenders changed that practice as well and said, you know what, when people get in trouble financially, we'll work with them versus just make them figure out how to get rid of that home in a short sale or through the foreclosure process, right? So you have lenders that also have changed their stance with regards to working with borrowers. But nonetheless, another graph to share with those that think we're going to get flooded with foreclosures. I had a friend recently that told me, hey, Nick, foreclosures are up 700%. Is that right? Year to year? Well, context matters. Again, we were at historical lows in 2021, all-time lows. right? And this year we have about 165,000 to date foreclosures. So it's as you can see here, it's not a bad place to be. Unfortunately, we're always going to have that built within our society, is those that change jobs, quit jobs, get fired from jobs, and it affects their housing situation, right? So it's never going to be at zero, it's fair to say. So just another graph. This is the first half of the year of foreclosure activity. So looking at just from January to June, this is what you can see from a factual basis, what we did in 08 versus to today in 2022. Gives you some facts. Again, share with somebody who could use it. It's a brilliant graph to give this snapshot, the first half of the year and what our country has seen since 08. Percentage of distressed property sales. Look at where we're at. We're around 1% of all distressed property sales. That means foreclosures and short sales represented less than 1% in May. So I know it's not June. I know that's not July. Nonetheless, it is recent. It's not dating back into 2019, right? We're dealing with 2022 numbers here. And wanted to share this one. I shared it, I know, in prior market updates. Nonetheless, I think a very interesting one and a very good one to share with people. Well, you say, Nick, you talked about forbearance. People needed assistance during COVID for various reasons. What about those? Are those going to hit the market? Well, this one tells us that 80% of people are out of forbearance, right? 4 out of 5 people have caught back up. There again, our economy is always going to see those that haven't caught up for whatever reason, right? And unfortunately, that's a bad situation individually, but it's not going to flood our market like it did in the mid-2000s. It's fair to say. It's realistic to say. Again, another picture to show, because I think showing is better than telling, right? And if we can show our friends and family some facts, now we can have opinions based on facts, right? Versus just saying, I heard that somewhere. So foreclosure activity across the U.S. continued its slow, steady climb back to pre-pandemic levels in the first half of 2022. While overall foreclosure activity is still running significantly below historic averages, the dramatic increase in foreclosures starts to suggest that we may be back to normal levels by sometime in early 2023. So even if you do come across a headline, we're up significantly, we're still not at what has historically been our normal levels, and they expect to get there in 2023. So context matters, right? Months inventory, homes for sale. You might be hearing, oh, we have so many more homes for sale. Here's where we're at, and here's where we've been. Again, this is looking at the national landscape. Nothing specific in California yet. But seller's market, we're still significantly in that seller's market, right? Are we, going in a good direction? Yes, right? We want to be somewhere closer to that neutral market, so we don't see the price appreciation so significantly that keeps prospective buyers out of the game. But this is where we're at. Again, facts being the facts. So what's ahead? That's a question I get a lot. Well, what do you think's going to happen in the rest of 2022? Well, there again, let's look at where we've been and lean on the experts in the industry. Annual home price growth dropped by nearly 2 percentage points, the greatest single month slowdown on record since at least the early 1970s. That snippet alone, you will probably hear about in headlines somewhere. And what it'll probably leave out is what's underneath it. While the slowdown was record-breaking, home price growth would need to decelerate at this pace for 6 more months to drive annual appreciation back to 5%, a rate more in line with long-term averages. Let me repeat that. 6 straight more months, we need that quote-unquote record-breaking deceleration in home price growth. So we're not even close to it yet. Yes, it's gone down, but 1 month does not equal a trend, right? So just be mindful. Again, context matters here. So you might hear headlines or see headlines tied to that first part of that quote from Black Knight's latest monthly mortgage monitor, but context matters. Have the full story or have the full quote, and it paints a more realistic picture. Appreciation slowing, but there's no depreciation. Look at this graph. This is a great one to share again. Depreciation means you lose home value. We're not even close to losing home value. We are slowing down that rate of appreciation. And this graph paints a pretty nice picture to share for that. So percent year over year, home price increases. Here's what we're looking at from January to June, right? Year over year, yes, we're slowing down a little bit, but not significantly, right? Homes are not losing value. Mortgage rate projections, right? Not just home prices, but what are mortgage rates going to do? No one has a crystal ball on this one, but here's where the experts are leaning. Quarter four, right? So that's going to start in October. They expect it to be in around 5.3, right? Quarter one, right? So now you're looking at January to March next year. They expect it to be low 5 still. So again, things are starting to stabilize. Why? Because inflation, right? If the Fed feels like inflation is under control, interest rates will start being quote unquote under control, meaning they won't fluctuate so much, right? So something to be mindful of, and you will see these numbers change, but at least gives you a basis from what to potentially and probably expect moving forward. So there could be a potential silver lining for the market, he added, he being Joel Kahn, with an economist with MBA. So as stabilizing mortgage rates and rising inventory may bring some buyers back to the market during the second half of the year, right? Now that people have an idea as to what will probably happen, you can be more confident in making decisions, right? We don't want to make decisions when there's a bunch of unknowns out there. That's understandable. So that's where we're getting to. Home price forecasts, right? Where are we looking at for this year alone? Again, normal appreciation in around 5%. Nationally, they're projecting in around 10.3%. This is up a little bit from prior months that I've shared, I know. But again, people rethink things based on new numbers that come out, right? So there it is. There's the latest and greatest with where they expect home appreciation for this year alone, 2022 alone. I don't think national housing prices will decline in a meaningful way, but there will be some price declines across the country. That's coming from Mark Zandi there with Moody's Analytics. So he's one that's known for being very pessimistic in the housing industry, but that's his pessimistic point of view. He doesn't think housing prices are going to be really affected in a meaningful way. But again, we will see some price declines across the country, which we have, right? That's where we're at. 3 reasons to buy a home today. 1, fewer multiple offer situations. That's a positive for those of you that are prospective buyers. 2, fewer homes selling above asking price. I'll be sharing California-specific info to this here shortly. And supply of homes for sale is growing. That's nationally in the state of California. We'll get into that as well. But those are all good signs for prospective buyers that we haven't seen in a couple years. Followed in September's guides, just wanted to let you know I'll be sharing this. This is a national guide that I have available for free. So just know that is coming out, being your fall guide there in early September. So this time next month, you'll have access to that one. State spotlight. So let's dig into California because that's where I live. That's where I serve. So let's see numbers there. Median cost for a single family home has dropped to $833,000 and change. And that's down from a record in May that saw us almost reach $900,000 as an average for a single family home. So with that being said, this is up in around 23.5% since July 2020, where we saw an average home at $666,000, right? Now in hindsight saying, wow, that was the beginning of COVID, really. But that's where we've been. This is where we are. Average days on market, 14 days. This is up 6 days from a year ago, right? It's starting to tick up a little bit. It's still, we want to hit 30. I think 30, we'll start really seeing prices moderate, even price reductions coming down that much more. So 14 days, that's still fast. It's just not as fast. It's like going down the highway at 90 and feeling like 75 is slow, right? This is still a very fast market, very competitive market. We are seeing less multiple offers. We are seeing less homes go for over list price. Here's an interesting one. I've been tracking this, and for 22 consecutive months up until July, we had at least 50% of all homes in the state of California go above list price. We broke it. It's done. That records are meant to be broken, right? And it was broke there in July. 35% of all homes sold above list price. So that's the first month in almost 2 years that we have not seen at least 50% of homes go above list price. Something to share and say, hey, we're starting to see this turn, which again is positive for buyers. Monthly inventory levels. Where have we been? Where are we? January, look where we were, 1.3 months of inventory. Interest rates were still in the low threes. Things were flying off the shelf, not just tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars over list price homes we're going for. Now, our current market is littered with people being able to get homes at list price, even below list price. Didn't say everybody, but we are seeing that a lot more frequently, and home inventory is rising over 3 months. Again, a positive direction, a positive trend there since really January, right? We're headed in the right direction here in the state of California. So things to be mindful of, and just know we're still in that seller's market, right? We're very much in line with the national platform when it comes to inventory levels here in the state of California. Share of listings with price reductions. Wanted to give some objective information here because we say, oh, there's a lot. Well, what's a lot? Well, 41%, over 41% saw a price reduction there in the month of July. And that's up from 35% in June. So my apologies for that misprint. So June saw 35% of listings seeing a price reduction. July saw 41% of listings see a price reduction. Average percentage reduced in around 5%. What does that mean for the average price of a home? Well, right now, average price of a home is about $833,000. That would mean a price reduction of in around 5%. You're going to see it about $792,000. Okay, so that gives you some hard numbers to work with. 54% closed below list price. So even though a home may not be listed or getting a price reduction, maybe they're not getting many offers. Maybe they didn't get any offers, and 2 weeks in, they accept an offer $5,000 below list price, $10,000 below list price, more than that. That's going to ultimately be those that account for the closed below list price. So that's why those numbers don't align. Price reductions is tracking one number, and closed transactions is tracking another number. So things, again, to be mindful of, and these are more than what we've ever seen in the last 2 years for sure. The cost of waiting to buy. It's not my job to tell you what to do. It's my job to share with you what will happen if you choose not to do it. So even though interest rates are moderating, they're starting to not fluctuate as much. I just wanted to paint a picture. If they go up to 6%, just wanted to use that 0.5%. If they go up to 6%, look at what it does to our numbers, right? It jumps that cost. So things to be mindful of, and not just short term, but long term. Look at the difference in the life of the loan, right? 0.5% is going to unfortunately look at almost $250,000 more in payments over that time. Prospective buyers. So what do you need to know if you're in the state of California? Get that pre-approval before you start looking, right? You're creating false hope. Yes, things aren't as competitive, but they're still competitive. Get that pre-approval, have that peace of mind, know what dollar and budget amount you're working with so you can confidently and quickly make decisions when the time comes. 2, know what your budget is. I just alluded to that. Be prepared to move quick, and being pre-approved will allow you to do so. Let me ask you this question. What will you do if there's a mismatch in price? Are you willing to give up certain amenities within a home? If you say, I have to live in that city, I have to. That's my goal. That's my desire. Are you willing to give up some features that you say, I wanted a 2-car garage, maybe it's just a 1. I really wanted a single level. I'll live with a townhome and getting a bi-level, a 2-level home, right? Are you willing to drive a little bit farther? You say, I'm not willing to give up any of those things. Are you willing to drive a little bit more to get all of those things, right? Or do you have a family member or friend who can potentially help you out for that price difference, right? Different solutions. Don't know what your situation is, but things to think through clearly before you even get in that situation. And understand that an individual home price being lowered does not equal all home prices coming down, right? I've talked with a number of prospective home buyers recently thinking, well, everything's going to drop. Okay, so I'll give you an example. I'm doing an open house for a property in San Marino, currently listed at $3.3 million, and it's a price reduction from $3.725 million. That's over $400,000 that it's reduced in price, but that doesn't affect you if your budget is $900,000, right? It's irrelevant. So just because individual homes are seeing a drop in price and seeing a price reduction doesn't mean all homes will be seeing a price reduction. So again, connect with a local professional in your area, because they're going to be able to give you those more specific numbers based on what it is you're looking for in your price range. Local spotlight. Let's nail this thing down to the San Gabriel Valley, and then we're out of here. So La Cañada, Pasadena, Monrovia, San Gabriel, Claremont, I always share these numbers with you. You can look back on prior months to see, wait, wasn't it a different number? Yeah, they're going to fluctuate month to month, but I give you the median price. I give you the amount of homes for sale and the active listings, okay? Homes sale, how many homes sold in that area, and then active listings in that area. So always give you that monthly snapshot just to see what's moving in certain parts of the San Gabriel Valley. Also at what price points. You see La Cañada's median price point for the month of July was $2.27 million versus San Gabriel was $938,000, right? So again, location matters, right? Type of home matters, and the things that come within that community, right? Homes sold through the San Gabriel Valley, not going to dig into numbers here, but fair to say things are not moving quite as much, but they're not significantly lower either when it comes to the amount of homes sold. And remember, I track everything from 500,000 to 1.5 million throughout various cities in the San Gabriel Valley. So just wanted to share those numbers with you. It compares August to July numbers, so you can compare month to month. Where exactly are we at when it comes to townhomes? Where are we at when it comes to condos, right? All living options, especially for you first-time buyers. Do you have to have that house? Or do you want to just get in the housing market and get in that condo, let appreciation work for you versus against you? And maybe that's your springboard to then get into a townhome or a single-family home 5 years down the road, 3 years down the road, 7 years down the road. But at least you're in the market today, right? So August 1 through 19, wanted to share last couple slides with you guys. But condos, townhomes, homes sold in the San Gabriel Valley in the cities I track, 50% are going for overlist price. This is San Gabriel Valley, not California, right? 73% in June and July at this time, right? So we've seen a lot less go for overlist price in the San Gabriel Valley specifically. 43% have sold under list price. That's up. That's almost doubled from July's 22%, and that's more than doubled from June's 19%, right? So again, proof in the pudding, right? Home prices are coming down. It's not everybody, but it is a lot of individuals that are being affected by this market shift. And then you say, well, Nick, that's 93%. Well, 7% in the San Gabriel Valley have sold at list price. It's listed at $850,000. It's sold at $850,000, right? Wanted to remind you again, I got these buyer guides coming up. So this time next month, I'll have a link for those. Feel free to shoot me an email if you want to make sure you get it right when it comes out on September 2nd. Complimentary. I'm also offering this service. I already did it in June, July, and August. I'm recycling, taking off September, and then doing it in October, November, December. Share this with someone who can use it. If it's you, again, just email me at nick@realgump365.com, and I'm happy to send you the link. We just go through Zoom. It's about 40 minutes. But just to have a conversation. First-time buyers, what are those options? I have a lender on there. I have a financial advisor on there. Home buyer workshop. How does that differ from first-time home buyers? We go through the contract. Everybody signs it. Whether you understand it or not is another matter. So we dig into contingencies. We dig into those pieces that all of us probably have heard about, but few of us unfortunately understand. So I want to help you understand what it is you're signing as a home buyer. And then the seller workshop. There again, I have a financial advisor on it. I have a real estate lawyer sitting on that one to talk about probate and wills and trusts and sharing some stories. So very informative. I surround myself with other professionals. So again, feel free to share this with someone who can use it, but it's going to be the first Tuesday in each of those months at 6 p.m. via Zoom. There it is, guys. My goal to help you build a happier, more proud and accomplished version of yourself through real estate. I'm Nick Gumpert with RE/MAX Top Producers. Again, I service the 210 corridor predominantly, not only, within the San Gabriel Valley. I'm happy to help however I can. You can find me on social media, of course, here on YouTube where you're watching it, but also Instagram. I'm constant and consistent in that space. Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm here as a resource. So feel free to reach out. Hopefully we'll talk soon. Have a good one.